Hey guys. All right, so yeah, that was a little awkward. Sorry guys. I'm just gonna be real. So some of you guys probably know me from here. Actually, majority of you guys know me from here. But I first want to tell you guys what I do outside of youth. Like all of your leaders, they have super cool lives even outside of here, which makes them even cooler. So what I do is I'm actually a social worker. And yeah, right? Oh yeah. So a lot of people have kind of misconceptions, I guess, about what social work is. Like even when I went into this field, I thought I was just gonna be like a DCF worker. That's actually not it. There's like an umbrella of social work. And we work pretty much everywhere. But that's not really what I want to tell you guys. I want to tell you guys what I study. So psychologists, right, study the brain, and ologists study whatever else. But social workers, we study this thing called person in environment. And so what that means is I study you as a person, but more importantly, I study the environment around you, like your school, your home life, your grades. I study everything that would affect you. And what I actually find the most is that the people who do get affected, right, by the environment around you, it's actually because you don't have a strong sense of identity. And that's what I want to talk to you guys about tonight. So some of you guys may have known me for a lot of years. Like I've got girls sitting in this room that have known me since I was in high school. But I'm going to take you all the way back to when nobody knew me in middle school. And I'm probably going to tell you why that's a good reason that you didn't know me. So let's go ahead and put the first picture up, because I thought, where better else to expose myself than in front of you guys, right? So, thank you. So, all right, so we're in middle school. I want you to imagine like baby Gibby, right, in middle school. So what I did in middle school, I was in the drama club, and I loved it. I was on this thing called The Crew, and it was fun. We would like do people's makeup, and we would pick their outfits out for the show. But more importantly, and the funnest part, we would make things out of duct tape. Like I'm talking full tables and chairs, and like we made like a treasure chest out of duct tape for the play that we were doing. It was super fun. I also did power tumbling, so I was kind of a gymnast, but like not really a gymnast. And I loved to read. I was a total fangirl. And I'm like one of those OG fangirls that like read the Hunger Games and the Divergent series. Obsessed over them. And I would read all the fan fiction. But what I really want to talk to you about tonight is the fact that I was famous. I don't know if you guys knew that, but I was famous. See, I had this best friend. It's the one with the towel on her head. That's Kayla. And she's actually still my best friend. We've been friends for 16 years now. Friends since kindergarten. And we would get together and we would film YouTube videos for our fans, right? So go ahead and send the next picture up. All right, so that's us in middle school. As you can see, we loved eyeliner back then. So this was actually the day we filmed like our most famous YouTube video. And we had to like rearrange furniture in our house for this. We had to cut up trash bags and tape them all over her kitchen because we were doing a really messy challenge called the What Is This Challenge? And then, so we filmed it. It was great. We stayed up late. We were editing it. We were up till like 2 or 3 a.m. editing our YouTube video for our fans. You guys want to know how many subscribers we had? Yeah. 3. We weren't famous, but we wanted so badly to be famous, like so badly. And this was when like Vine just came out. I don't know if y'all remember that. Yeah, it was the best part of my life. And Instagram just came out. So we were both just starting to like make our profiles and develop them. But like I said, we wanted to be famous. And back then we really didn't know who we were. Like, this is not the Gibby that you see today. It's not. Really, we were just trying not to get bullied. And we were bullied really badly, actually. And the worst part was that me and this best friend, Kayla, we went to different schools. So we only got to see each other actually at church on the weekends, or if we had a sleepover the night before church. And so, of course, I really wanted to make friends at my school. So I had my eyes set on this one girl. And I was like, she's popular. She's pretty. I want to be her friend, right? Well, she was a dancer. And she was trying out for the dance team. So what did I do? I tried out for the dance team. And this is my also public apology to anyone who's ever seen me dance. It's not great. It's not. So I tried out for the dance team. I had bought dance shoes. I put on this whole persona of I'm a dancer. I can do this. So the day came, I was about to try out, and she comes up to me. And I'm like, this is my chance. I'm going to be friends with her. Yes. And she said hi, and she smiled so big. And in the same smile that she said hi to me in, she also said, you're trying too hard to fit in with us. And that hurt. I just wanted to be friends. I just wanted to make friends. Well, later on when we were all on Instagram, I saw that same girl and those same people who bullied me every day. I'd wake up, I'd scroll through them all. I'd go to bed, I'd scroll through them all. In fact, I wanted to fit in so badly that I lost who I was as a person. And I would post all these happy, smiling pictures on Instagram and Facebook for the grandmas, and but on the inside, on the other side of that phone screen, I kind of felt like I was dying inside. I would even stay up late looking at all these girls, scrolling through all these girls who I was not like or even liked by. And it led me down a really dark path. And maybe that's true for you guys too, if you're willing to admit it. How many likes do you guys get on Instagram? 20? 30? How many of you get 100 or more? All right. Famous. Okay, so how many views do you guys get on TikTok? You guys get a good amount of views on TikTok? Yeah? All right. Let me ask you a question. Where's the limit? Where do you have to get to achieve that level of satisfaction for yourself? For me, in middle school, it was over 20. And me in high school, it was over 150. But if I didn't get there, I felt worthless. I felt like I was not good enough. And honestly, when I did achieve it, that satisfaction, that sense of worth, didn't last long. Why doesn't it last? Well, the truth is that probably only 5 likes out of that 150 or whatever I was trying to achieve knew me or even cared about me. It was just scrolling through and double tapping. And there's a story in the Bible kind of like this. So I want you to, if you have your Bibles, I want you to go to 1 Samuel 16 with me. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of the story before we get into the verses. And so it starts with this guy named Samuel, right? Kind of in the name, so I think you'll remember that one. So this guy Samuel, right, he's told by God to go and appoint the next king of Israel. Now, Israel and the Israelites are God's chosen people. So Samuel is told by God, go to Bethlehem and find Jesse. In the Bible, it says, go and find Jesse of Bethlehem, which basically meant Jesse and his family, Bethlehem, the town, right? So he goes and he gathers up the family, right? And he starts looking at all these brothers. He's trying to appoint the next king. And there's 7 of them. He sees 7 brothers in front of him. And these guys were top-notch. Top-notch guys. What's the biggest guy you've ever met in your life? Strongest, meanest, I'm talking biggest. Yeah, they were bigger than Steve. Yeah. And probably better at rugby too. I love you, Steve. You're the best. So I'm talking these guys were massive. And ladies, they were hot. 10 out of 10 hot. Girl, yes. They were top notch. Just like Miss Mel. Top notch. So that's where we pick up, right? So Samuel's looking at all these guys, really amazing, super strong, hot guys, right? So that's where we're going to pick up in verse 7. So 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7. But the Lord said to Samuel, do not consider his appearance or his height, for I've rejected him. The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at your heart. I'm going to keep telling you this story, and I want you guys to follow along with me. So verse 8 says, then Jesse called Abinadab and had him pass in front of Samuel. But Samuel said, the Lord's not chosen this one either. Swipe left, right? Jesse then had Shammah pass by, but Samuel said, nor has the Lord chosen this one. Jesse had 7 sons pass before Samuel, but Samuel said to him, the Lord has not chosen these. And I can imagine at this point, Samuel was probably getting super defeated. Like God told him where to go, who to find, and he wasn't there. Well, let's read verse 11. So he asked Jesse, are these all the sons you have? They're still the youngest, Jesse answered. He's tending the sheep. Send for him. This is Samuel speaking. Send for him. We will not sit down until he arrives. Who's ever been picked last? Like picked last? Yeah. I mean, yeah, you and Patrick. Uh-huh. So this was worse. I mean, it's kind of different, like being picked last. It hurts, right? But could you imagine being forgotten altogether? I mean, all of his brothers were there in the place where Samuel was, and David, who we're going to meet later, was in the field tending sheep. Jesse said he's out in the field. He's shepherding the sheep. I mean, he was totally forgotten about. Let's go ahead and move on to verse 12. So he sent for him and had him brought in. And he was glowing with health and he had a fine appearance. Again, what's Samuel looking at here? The outside. The outside. Then the Lord says, rise and anoint him. This is the one. You see, even though David was forgotten about by Samuel, David was chosen by the Lord. So Samuel took the horn of oil, verse 13, and anointed him in the presence of his brothers. I can imagine they were probably a little bit jealous. And from that day, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon David. You see, the truth is that I think so many people look at our outward appearance rather than what's in our hearts. And I think sometimes if we are open enough to admit it, we actually do that to ourselves. That's why we put on our makeup, change our outfit for our TikToks. Or that's why guys, maybe you do like 20 push-ups before a big game because you really want those muscles to be sticking out. We want people to see the best parts of us. We want people to see the perfect side of us. So I read you that verse, God looks at the heart and the world looks at the outward appearance, right? But I want to change the verbiage. Right, let's make it modern. God looks at your authenticity. The world looks at your mask. And if you base who you are off of the mask you put on, how can you be who God really created you to be? Who you're meant to be? So where do we go from here, right? I'm telling you, take off your mask. But what should you put on instead? Nothing. Nothing. God created you to be you. In fact, if he wanted you to be different, he would have created you differently. Because God doesn't make mistakes. God creates masterpieces. So the thing I'm trying to tell you, trying to hit home to your hearts on, is that it's actually not even about who you are. It's about whose you are. It's about that you are a child of God. It's about that you are chosen, that you are important, that you are God's creation, you are his masterpiece. And I do want to take you guys back a few weeks ago, right? When Steve spoke about truth and how God is truth. Well, if God is truth, then isn't what he says about you true? So do you guys want to fit in? Right? I think in our hearts, deepest of hearts, even though we want to be different and we want to stick out a little bit, we also want to find love and acceptance and belonging. But that's already actually inside you. You get love and acceptance and belonging first from yourself and from God before you can get it from other people. And to do that, you have to drop the mask. You can't be wearing a mask around and expect people to see inside your heart. I think if Samuel would have chosen one of the other brothers, right, top-notch guys, David's life would have looked a whole lot different. And that's because who you are is not what you do. There's a difference, actually, between your identity and your calling. You see, David was a shepherd. At the time this story takes place, he was out tending sheep, which is what he was supposed to do. But that wasn't his calling. It wasn't. And we know that because the story doesn't stop there. In the next chapter, he slays Goliath, a giant, with a pebble, like a little bitty rock. David was called to do great things, but maybe his assignment didn't show that to him yet. Can you imagine if your story stopped where you are right now? Like if you were just a football player, if you were just a singer, if you were just the person who had 100 followers on Instagram, if your whole life was about winning the game or straight A's. Could you imagine if it stopped there? I want to tell you guys that God has a calling on your life that's bigger than what your life looks like now, than what your assignment is now. And that's where you should look to for your identity. But how? Well, I want to make it easy. I want to give you guys 3 steps, right? Read it, know it, believe it. I'll start with the first step, read it. So get in the Word. Read what God has to say about you. And yeah, I'm talking about the Bible. Open it up. God has actually a lot to say about you. And if I'm being honest with you, they're the best compliments I've ever received. Sorry, Patrick. I love you. In fact, I want you guys to read one thing every day, and I want you to speak it over yourself. God says a lot of different things. He says you're chosen. He says you're worth more than rubies. He says that you are beautiful, that he calls you beautiful one. He says so many things. Guys, maybe it's not those beautiful compliments that are going to touch your heart and make you feel like you're called to do something bigger, but maybe it's a story like David and Goliath. And that even where you are now, even if you don't feel equipped, that you can still go out and slay a giant. I want you to read those things, and I want you to know them. And that brings us to step 2. Commit these things to your memory, right? And then pull them out, because chances are, there's not really a chance, it's going to happen. We're going to feel less than, lonely, left out. It's going to happen. But when those feelings do come, what you can pull out of your brain is all of those things, those beautiful things that God says about you. So know it. In fact, Proverbs 3:1 actually talks about this. It says, store these things away in your heart, and they'll bring you peace and prosperity. Prosperity meaning a rich life. I'm in, right? And peace, calmness in your life. I want that, right? So I'm going to store these things away in my heart. And the third step, believe it. Because it's not enough to just know these things. Things don't actually change until you believe them. They're not going to become a part of your identity until you believe them, right? God says you're chosen. Well, do you believe that? God says that you're worthy. Do you believe that you're worthy? God says that you're worth more than rubies. Do you think that? Do you believe that about yourself? Because again, if God says it, it's true. It's true. So I want you to believe it. Believing and changing these things and putting them into your identity is actually how you live in who God created you to be. But the choice is up to you. The choice is up to you. But I want you to know what's at stake. David did a lot of things in his life, right? He slayed a giant. He did a lot of things in his life. But do you think he could have done that if he was trying to be someone else? If he was trying to be someone different? Maybe if he was trying to be his brother? No. God didn't anoint anyone else to be king besides David. In that time, it was only David. That was God's choice. And God is calling you to do something bigger too. God has a calling on your life that nobody can take away. But you have to take the mask off first. You have to believe in the person that God has called you to be. Believe in the person that you are. And maybe if you're not that person yet, you have to become that person. I want everyone to close their eyes for a minute. I want you guys to imagine, I want you guys to visualize something with me. What would your life look like if you actually took that mask off? Whatever mask you're wearing, how hard you're trying to fit in, what if you just took that off and were authentically you? What could you learn about yourself if maybe your notifications were off on your phone all the time? What would your lunch table look like if there wasn't a million Instagram notifications? I mean, could you engage in meaningful conversation and learn about the person that's in front of you? I can tell you that for me, it was huge. When I finally turned those notifications off and started looking up at what was right in front of me, big things happened for me. I engaged in meaningful conversations. I made friendships that have lasted me until today and hopefully a million years in the future. I met the love of my life. I mean, all these things changed my life based on one action. One action. And that was to tune out what the rest of the world had to say about me and to live only in who God called me to be. Before we close, I want to tell you some backstory. So I want to let you in on something that happened before Samuel left to go anoint David. And it's all in regards to your true identity, right? For faith to rise, fear has to fall. You see, Samuel was terrified. He was super scared, actually, to go and anoint David. And that's because there was already a king. His name was Saul. And in verse 2, he actually talks about this, and he says, well, how could I go? If Saul finds out, he'll surely kill me. I mean, there was a cost to Samuel going and anointing David. And the truth is, there was a cost to you also, to your worth, to your identity, to the love, acceptance, and belonging that's inside you. There was a cost. You see, when sin entered the world, there became a gap, right, between us and between God. And God knew that if he wanted to reach us and we wanted to reach him, that the gap had to be closed. And so he sent his only son, Jesus, into the world to be sacrificed on a cross for you and for me. We were worth more than that gap to God. Your future, your calling was worth more than that gap of sin to God. So if you've never accepted God into your heart, I want to give you the opportunity to do that today. Because the truth is, he's ready to help you take that mask off and live in the truth that you are his perfect creation, to live in the identity of what he's called you to be. So I want everyone to close their eyes if they're not already closed. And we're going to pray this together so that nobody feels left out. And if it's your first time praying this, I want you to know that God is ready for you. So I want you guys to repeat after me. Dear God, I know that I'm a sinner. I know that I have a lot of masks. And there's nothing I could do to save myself. I know that without you, there's no way I could get into heaven. I believe that you died on the cross for me, for my sin and my salvation. I believe that you were resurrected and ascended to heaven. As best as I can, I transfer my trust to you. I know that I'm a sinner and I need a Savior. I give you my life. I receive your life. Now teach me how to live. Now, if it's your first time praying that prayer and you've made the choice to accept Jesus in your heart, I want you to just be bold for just a few seconds, and I want you to look up at me. I'm going to count to 3, and I want everyone to keep their eyes closed. I'm not going to embarrass you. I'm not going to call you out, but I want to know that it's your first time doing that because I want to celebrate you later in private, one-on-one. So if it's your first time doing that, I'm going to count to 3, and I want you to look up at me. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much for letting me talk to you guys today.